that feeling when you're staring at a data chart and you're thinking, okay, I see the numbers, but what's really going on here? We've all been there. Well, in this explainer, we're going to unlock a way to build that story right into your charts, turning them from just, static pictures into these dynamic, insightful narratives.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at why standard charts sometimes fall short. Then, we'll take a simple bar chart and give it some serious superpowers. After that, we'll dive into some pretty advanced techniques. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see why this is, no joke, a total game changer.
All right, first up, let's talk about leveling up our data storytelling. See, most charts are pretty good at showing you what happened, but where the real magic lies, the real value, is in understanding why it happened. That's the story that actually helps you make smart decisions. So take a look at this chart. It's a classic, right? Sales and costs by year. And yeah, it's fine. It tells us what happened. But does it tell us how we're trending or how we're doing compared to last year? Nope. We're kind of left with more questions than answers. So this is the big question, isn't it? How do we add that next layer of analysis? Things like year-over-year growth or maybe a running total without having to go build some crazy complicated model in the background. How do we put the story right there on the visual itself? And the answer, my friends, is this amazing feature called visual calculations. Just think of them as smart little formulas that you can literally add right on top of your charts. Now, they use a language called DAX, but don't let that scare you. The beauty is, these calculations only work with the data you can actually see on the screen, which makes them incredibly fast, super flexible, and honestly, just easy to work with. All right, enough talk. Let's actually see this thing in action. We're going to take that basic bar chart from before and give it some serious analytical superpowers. So the first thing we do is add a super simple visual calculation for profit. It's exactly what you'd think, just our total sales minus our total cost. And boom, just like that, we've got a new piece of data to play with live on our chart. Okay, and this is where the magic really starts to happen. Power BI has these built-in templates that answer really common business questions with just a click. Want to compare to the last period? Use previous. Need to see a cumulative total? RUNNINGSUM. Trying to smooth out the data to spot a trend? That's moving average. It's all right there for you. I mean, just look at the difference here. It's night and day, right? The chart on the left, it just shows our profit each year. But the chart on the right, with one single click, now tells this rich story of growth. We can instantly see how each year stacks up against the one right before it. And you want to know what's really cool? You're not stuck with just one calculation. You can add more, like a running sum and a moving average, but then you can just tuck them away inside the tooltips, so your chart stays clean and simple, but all that rich detail is just a quick hover away. So smart. Okay, so we've nailed the basics. Now, let's level up and get into some of the more advanced stuff. We're about to see how these calculations give you some seriously precise control, especially when you're working with something a little more complex, like a matrix. So picture this, because it's a super common business question. We've got this matrix, this table showing our sales. It's broken down by product category and by fiscal year. The big question is, how did every single category do in, say, 2019 or 2020 compared to our starting point, our baseline year of 2018? Now, the formula to solve this looks pretty straightforward, right? We're just taking the current sales and subtracting the first sales value. But the real secret weapon here, the key to the whole thing, is that little word at the end, columns. That tells the formula which first it should be looking at. Let's see what that actually does. So that axis parameter, that is the absolute secret sauce. By default, it wants to run down the rows, comparing everything to the first product category, which is not what we want at all. But by just switching it to columns, we completely change the direction. Now it compares every single value back to that first fiscal year. That's our baseline. It's that simple, but it's so powerful. All right, ready for one last powerful trick? This one's really cool. A running total is great. We love it. But what if you want that running total to restart, to go back to zero at the beginning of every single year? How do we build that year-to-date view right on the chart? The solution is this little thing called the reset parameter. All we have to do is add highest parent to our running sum formula. We're basically just telling it, hey, whenever you get to a new highest level category, I want you to start over. And on our chart, the axis is year and then month. So the year is the highest parent. That means the sum will reset every single time a new year begins. And will you just look at the result of adding that one word? The before chart on the left is just one long, continuous line going up and up, but the after chart, it's completely transformed. You can clearly see the sawtooth pattern, showing the journey of our cumulative sales within each year, and then bam, it resets every January. That's a really sophisticated analysis that's now incredibly simple to do. So we've seen what these visual calculations can do, right? From simple stuff to really advanced context-aware metrics. Let's just take a second and wrap up with why this is such a massive deal for, well, for anyone who works with data. Really, what this all boils down to is making data analysis so much more agile. You get your insights way faster because you're not fighting with some complex data model in the background. It keeps your models clean, it gives you the freedom to just experiment and try things, and ultimately, it lets you tell much richer, much clearer stories with your data. And you know what the craziest part of all this is? According to the lab this explainer is based on, all of these powerful techniques we just went over, from the basics all the way to those advanced parameters like axis and reset, you can learn it all in about 30 minutes. I mean, come on, that is an incredible return on your time. This tool really puts some seriously sophisticated analysis into everybody's hands. It gives you the power to go find those deeper narratives. It moves you from just showing data to actually telling a compelling story with it. So I guess the only question left is, what hidden stories are waiting for you to discover in your data?
In this section of Power BI Lab, we'll go through create visual calculation in Power BI Desktop. And the task is here that create and edit visual calculation. We'll use previous running sum and moving average. So these three functions to create a comparison matrix in between each fiscal year. And use the optional axis parameter when creating comparison matrix. Use the option reset parameter to customize cumulative calculation in the multi-level DAXs. So for this lab, you need to download this zip file to get all those lab setup. So I'll share the link so that you can follow this lab into your own setup. So I have already downloaded the lab files. Let me go there. Open this starter sales analysis. It may take a minute or two. Let me back when that's ready. The first task is to create a bar chart visual. So for that, in the visualization pane, select this clustered bar chart. Now, now from the data pane in the date table, select the year, put into y-axis. Then from the sales table, select the cells and put into x-axis, and also do the cost into x-axis. So when we added that one, sales and cost to the visual, the sum of each field was automatically calculated. Now we'd like to sort the resulting by year ascending. So for that you select, let me drag little bit down, select that more option, and here you see the sort axis and select that sort ascending. So there you have a bar that showing the sum of sales and sum of cost by year sorted 18, 19 and 20. Now we are going to add a calculation. So for that you see that new visual calculation, select that one and select the custom. Now here we are going to place a formula. So you can see, okay, so why it's getting that? It's not getting the correct one. So let me remove that. So it's still showing that calculation. So I want this to be as a profit. So for profit, let me copy this. Press enter, and we can see the profit here. So expand that now under new visual calculation and select the versus previous. So versus previous compares the value to a preceding value or previous value. So we see the profit compared to the previous value for the year. So it just give a formula. Now in the field we are going to use that profit in our case. So that is profit. Here that field, going to use profit. Press enter. So we can see that versus previous here. Next we'll do running sum. So go here, new visual calculation and select the running sum. So in the running sum form, here is the field. Let me delete that one. And that is profit. So you can see that running sum value. So running sum calculates the sum of values. So adding the current value to the previous value. So it just profit wise, it just select these two, select these two. That way it just add the values. So running sums. Next we'll go through moving average. So from visual calculation, select that moving average. So just give a formula. So field we are going to replace with the profit. Press enter. Okay. Okay, let me delete. Maybe I typed something wrong. So select that one. Then select the moving average. Field. Select the profit. Now here window size, we're going to select 2. So by setting the window size 2, we are calculating the average of 2 consecutive values. So this is so 2 consecutive values. That average we are selecting here. So now we are going to disable sum of cells. So you can see that's out from there. We are going to disable sum of cost. And then we are going to disable also profit. Then is that running sum, we will move that to tooltips area. So we can drag that one. So running sum and moving average. You can also do other way, like you see move to tooltips. So it's here. So now we have a bar chart with the sum of sales, sum of cost, profit, and version previous, then running sum and profit moving average. So in our next task, we will do a matrix visual. So go to when we are in report view, create a new report page. So far we have done into visual level. Nothing has been added to that under the actual table. So here we are just setting up so that we can see or we can customize our report. So let's go back to report, and now let's create a new page. And here we are going to add a matrix visual. Select that matrix visual, and here add the rows for category from product, then from date select year, and sales from sales table. Now we'll add a calculations. So let's select that new visual calculation and select a custom. So let me increase the size. So for that, we can go to values and just increase the font. So let me do that. 16. So we are getting bigger size font for our visibility. So same we do for column header. Let's put 16. And row header, make that 16. So now we'll set up some calculation here. As you see, let me copy the formula, press enter. So what you see here, the matrix actually shows the difference in the sales amount for each category versus the first category. You see that bikes, so it's just comparing that one. Now select that versus first one in the values area, and then we are going to update this uh, calculation. Press enter. So you can see that nothing changes as rows in the default value for the access parameter that you can see, this one here. Now let's modify that versus first query where we did actually rows basis. Rows means this way. So this minus this like this way, and this is column basis. So now let me replace that rows with columns. Okay. So select the columns, press enter. See that I say it's showing uh, sales amounts comparing against the first fiscal year, and we can see that totals returns actually 0 instead of differences against the first fiscal year. Total sales is on a different hierarchy level than the year sum, and therefore it's considered the first column on this level. Now what we will do, next task, we are um, going to create a line chart visual. So for that, when you are in report view, back to report. Now create a new page, and here we are going to do a line chart. Select that one, and here on x-axis select year from date column, and quarter from date column, and y-axis select sales from sales table. When that is done, now next task we are going to do, add a running sum. So you can see that new visual calculation. From here select running sum, and here replace this field with sum of cells. And when that done, that commit the change. So you can see this value where sum of cells, different quarter. So even color wise you can see one is running sum, one is sum of cells. Next we will update running sum to restart. So it will consider, or it will restart every new fiscal year. So when we are in that running sum window, we are going to modify the calculation. So what the difference is that here it's not restarting. If we go to here, it's just going up. So here you can see, if you look at 2018, and here it just start from the sales point for 2019. We go here, it started again running sum from the 2020 start point. So it's restarting every fiscal year. So now you can save this one, like file, save as. Whenever you want to check this one, give a name, click save button. So this all for this lab. If you have any queries, you can go through the overview section where actually I'm giving what does that mean, all this terminology wise. Otherwise you can also add comments, like add question into comment section. See you into next lab.